Okay, so I did my presentation on schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a mental illness that is described as a subtle disorder of brain development and plasticity. So basically, schizophrenia is, of the mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, it's basically just a junk pile of everything that, just all of the above. If it was a test answer option, to be all of the above. Um, there's so many different symptoms and causes that scientists are going through trying to diagnose this. They say we know it's not depression, we know it's not anxiety, we know it's not this, we know it's not this. It has to be schizophrenia. So the main symptoms of schizophrenia can go as far as hallucinations. They're so vivid you don't know whether you're dreaming or whether you're awake. Deafening voices or noises in your ear that aren't really there, that no one else can see or hear. Or something as mild as just a poor decision that is out of the ordinary, like why did that dude go and buy a random pogo stick? It's just kind of like, why, just these small things that are, which is why it's so hard to diagnose as a illness. So the causes include genetics, possession, and idiopathic. So genetics obviously is whenever an ancestor of yours has had schizophrenia, and it passes down through chromosomes until you get it and start showing symptoms. Possession is the whole reason I did schizophrenia was because of the possession category, and that a lot of Christians believe that schizophrenia is just the scientific name for demon possession, and that when you have schizophrenia, there's a demon inside of you, living inside of you. And finally, we have the idiopathic, which is by far and away the largest group of causes when doctors just have no clue why you have the schizophrenia. So first, we have genetic. Here's a graph of the chromosomes of a schizophrenic person. It shows the differences between that and a regular person. So the red lines right here shows the chromosomal deletions. This is where there should be a gene, but there's not in schizophrenic patients. The blue lines show areas that link to schizophrenia. So when scientists are looking at somebody's chromosomes, they look in mainly, we'll talk about some others, mainly these three, five blue lines that, 6 blue lines that will be different and that will most heavily link to having schizophrenia. The red arrows just show regular abnormalities. It's different here than it would be in a regular patient who doesn't have schizophrenia. And the yellow lines are similar to the blue lines. They're just more minor, so you could still be schizophrenic but have normal yellow lines here. So it's just not as exact as the blue lines. And the red arrows signify translocation in a patient. So that's just, there's a gene there that should be a different gene. So religious factors. So I was going to read this Bible verse here. Seeing Jesus, there's a man in the Bible. His name was Legion because he had that many demons inside of him. He was that possessed by so many demons, and he ended up greeting Jesus, or the demons inside of him met with Jesus. And it reads, seeing Jesus, he cried out and fell before him and said in a loud voice, "What business do we have with each other? Jesus, Son of the Most High God, I beg you, do not torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man, for it had seized him many times, and he was bound with chains and shackles and kept under guard. And yet he would break his bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They were imploring him not to command them to go away into the abyss. So there's some more in this Bible verse where Jesus ends up casting out the demons into a bunch of pigs that kill themselves. But the biggest thing to take away from this is they bound the villagers and the people in the town bound Legion because he was dangerous, obviously, being possessed by demons, yet he broke free. Here, whenever Legion is speaking to Jesus, that's not really Legion. You find out those are just the demons talking to Jesus. See, Legion is now just a body, until obviously Jesus casts him out, a body that these demons are living in, where he's been possessed. See, one of the characteristics, a lot of the delusional, see things that aren't there people with schizophrenia say that they show symptoms and they feel as if somebody else is like in control of their body. Like the movie Inside Out, where there's people in a control center, that's how they feel, that, it's not them inside of their body, there's somebody else. They'll hear voices inside of their body that isn't theirs, and this is similar to the demon possession. My Sunday school group leader, in 6th grade, his son's best friend had schizophrenia, but he knew that it was a demon because they'd invite him to church. And, it wasn't like Legion where the demon's there 100% of the time. So the kid, he would say, yeah, I'll go to church with you. And he'd go to church, and as soon as he sat down and he started listening to the sermon, he'd start reciting in old tongue, the these, the thous, stuff like that. It's some really creepy stuff, but basically saying, this is wrong, I shouldn't be here, cursing Jesus' name, and but it wasn't like, hey man, you stink, like today's modern language. It was like, thou Lord is blah 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 blah, this stuff that isn't something you see today. It's something that came from the past, such as you see here with the demon possession. This is in the past. So that's kind of how we believe that the demons are inside of that man, or that kid. And then finally, there's the idiopathic reason. There's really not much to say about this. This happens in a lot of different illnesses. Cancer is one, anxiety, depression. Tons of illnesses are just idiopathic, and doctors have no idea where it came from, and that's the sad truth. However, we do have some brain scans right here that show the physical differences in the brain. This is an MRI of schizophrenia. So here, these, you can see the red dots. This is in the medial temporal lobe, and there is to put in the article's words, a vast volume deficit. So these red spots are much larger in a schizophrenic person's brain than they are in a regular person's brain. And now for some interesting facts. About 1% of the world will have schizophrenia. That's 1 in 100 people. So if you're looking at our school, about 4.5 people at our school are going to develop schizophrenia. Now, normally, I think it says it down here, schizophrenia happens right around our age, right from 17, 18 up until early 20s, right into the development of the adulthood is when they'll start to develop symptoms. So Vincent van Gogh is probably the most popular person who has had schizophrenia. Obviously, he cut off his ear, which was crazy. And you see, it's really interesting if you look at his paintings over time. Young Vincent van Gogh's paintings are colorful, but as it go on, they get darker and darker, more black and white, and just it's kind of spooky to see that. F. Scott Fitzgerald's the famous author's, his wife had schizophrenia, and Albert Einstein's second son had schizophrenia. Like I was saying before, his second son had developed symptoms at the age of 20. So, right around that 18, 19, 20 stage is when you'll start showing symptoms. 10% of people with schizophrenia commit suicide. This one is really big. These numbers, 10% of the people is insane. That's if you have 1,000 people with schizophrenia, then 10 of them are going to get 10 of them are going to get schizophrenia, and one of those 10 are going to commit suicide. So if you think about it, 1 in every 1,000 people commit suicide from schizophrenia, which is a crazy number. Medication and therapy can reduce symptoms. There's really no way to completely cure schizophrenia, but just like Alzheimer's, but you can reduce the symptoms And then most patients are quiet and nonviolent. So, you see a lot of the stuff like Vincent Van Gogh cutting off his ear. That's, a small group of people. Most of them are quiet and just kind of say to themselves. Here are my sources, and thank you for coming to my presentation.